we're about to go into teenage years with my son in probably 3-4 years. And
Yeah.
so somebody who deals with teenagers on a daily basis, what can dads do to prepare themselves for that chapter of their life when their kids become teenagers? Because we've had some great answers to that, but I want somebody that's in the front lines like you are to give us a good ground there.
Yeah. If I could share anything from what I've learned from the interactions I've had with young men and their fathers through different contexts, through sport, through hard conversations in my office, through great conversations in my office. I think as dads, we have expectations for our kids, fair expectations. We want them to be successful. We want them to achieve. We want them to find their passion and follow it. And we like, you got to do this and this and this. And here's the pathway. And we want to involve ourselves in that. A lot of the dads that I see, they've really like, even the dad, there's absent dads, and we won't go there, but I think a lot of the kids who have issues in our school that we work with, and, Dustin and I talked about like what it means to have a father in the picture and not have a father in the picture. But there's a difference between like having a male in the home who's not a father. And so a lot of the kids who struggle have situations like that. But when we're navigating conversations, what I see from the young men that I worked with when I was in middle school, which is grade 7, 8, 9 here, and then 10, 11, 12 high school, boys want their dads to listen. They want their dads to listen and actually be heard. Now, that doesn't mean you have to, as a dad, change what you want and your expectations. But sometimes we just want to do to our kids, sons and daughters. And so today we had this conversation with this young man with the drop shipping thing. I said, now, how do you feel after this conversation? This young man, I'll give some context. His dad had an affair and took off. And so now him and his mom and his sister are by themselves trying to figure things out. The world's in survival right now, like survival mode. And so like there's lots here. But what I saw in this boy was a broken trust, that someone he trusted hurt his family. And now he's struggling to figure that out. In the strongest families with the strongest kids, where you think, oh yeah, this is great, I still see conversations where there maybe be some broken trust just because my dad just didn't listen to me. And listening isn't just like letting them speak and then saying what you want to say anyway. Listening is letting them speak and then asking them questions about the things they've said. And as a dad, you will start to, through asking questions, learn more about your kids in that process of just asking than you will out of any like conversation that you try to force. So instead of trying to force a conversation, especially in a disciplinary situation, ask questions. Tell me more about this. Why were you thinking this? Why did you choose to do that? Because you made a choice. What were the alternatives? What was the barrier standing you in between you and this that you just couldn't overcome? Like, have conversations with your sons that say, I'm here, I'm listening to you. And then after they give you that, then you can formulate in your head and say, okay, now I know where my son is at. I can take what I know in my experience and I can formulate an answer based on their lived experience. They told me their barriers. They told me what they were thinking. They told me how they felt in that moment, why they made the decision, who influenced them. Now I can lead with a story, my own experience, and then they'll buy in a little bit more.
It's a challenge for sure, right? Because you want to cast vision, you want to call out of them all of their potential and all of them to be everything they can be.
Yeah.
And then you have to humble yourself to realize it's not going to be your story,
Yeah.
And it's hard to disconnect from that point at some point. And I think it's much harder for dads to do it with their sons. My daughter's into things that I never would have been in. So it's a little bit easier to be all team my kiddo, because it's like, oh, I don't really care about horseback riding, but you do. So I'm all in for you, Whereas if you were a baseball player and now your son's playing baseball, it feels a little bit more personal somehow. So great examples there, Cam, about kind of pausing, listen to understand, ask those follow-up questions to demonstrate that you are listening. Very powerful tool.
And I'm not saying don't have standards. I just want to make that clear. Like, I'm not saying dads just have to pander to what their sons are saying. No. I'm saying have standards, have boundaries, have expectations, but you are teaching your son what it looks like, and you're modeling for your son what it looks like to live within that. Right? He doesn't know it already. You have to model that for him.
Right.
And that takes
And it
back
teaches
forth.
adaptability too, which is
Yes.
like that might be one of the most important life skills ever that
Oh yeah. Yeah.
that they don't teach in school necessarily
Nope.
from a book. But yeah, that's really great example, Cam. Thank you for sharing that one.